I want to talk a little, a little bit more about participles since it seems all of you are struggling with them. Participles are, as I've said, words that end in ed or ing that describe another word. Please be sure you have watched the video that talks about what participles are that I posted in the class in the notes in the content area. To look and see where you can put participles, you need to look at, again, similar items. What's the subject? What's the verb? And then what could be describing something else? So in the first two sentences I have here, I have its roots led north from the slave states to Canada. And then the next sentence, the roots, again, wound their way through the Midwest and New England. So I could describe roots again. And to do that, I'm going to take this sentence. And since this is talking about roots, I have to describe it. And I want to take this part of the sentence. And since that's not an ing or ed word, I'm going to turn it into winding, because wound comes from winding their way through the Midwest and New England. Because I've destroyed the subject, verb, separated them, I have to put in the commas. The roots, winding their way through the Midwest and England, led north from the slave states to Canada. See, the second sentence gives you extra information about roots, so you can just incorporate it in the first sentence with an ing or an ed word. Let me show you another one. The fugitives crossed hundreds of miles of dangerous territory. The fugitives moved from station to station on foot. Again, can you figure out what's the same? Think about it. It's the fugitives. First, they crossed hundreds of miles, and then they moved from station to station. There's two ways I can do that. I could say the fugitives, and then interrupt it again, like I did for the first one that I combined. See how I did that? I just put that in much like I did to this one up here, since it was fugitives and fugitives. Or I could make this the first sentence. Let me do a quick copy paste for sake of time. And I could describe the action that they moved from station to station, crossing, and this time I'm not describing fugitives. I'm describing the actual crossing, or excuse me, the actual movement, I'm sorry. Crossing hundreds of miles of dangerous territory. Okay, so in this one I decided to describe the fugitives, and in this one I tried to describe the fugitives' actions. Either one's correct, and both of them used a participle. Okay, let's see what happens. This one's a little bit more complex, and we're going to have to really think this one through. They slept in barns and churches. They were assisted by a brave and dedicated abolitionist. And then it goes on, okay, we've got two theys, okay? But then it talks about the abolitionist that's right here. So what are we going to do with this? Because now it's going on talking about abolitionists, and then down here it's talking about the county. So the first thing I'm going to do, so I don't get confused, is I'm going to see how these go together. And I can see very simply this one can be attached to this one, and I'm going to start it with, and so that it's near they. Oh, maybe I better not do that because I got to describe abolitionist. So I'm going to start with they slept. See how sometimes your first instinct isn't the right? See, I haven't done these before. I mean, I have in another class, but I haven't done these right now for this video so that I can kind of make mistakes like I did there. I still can, assisted by brave and dedicated abolition. I spelled wrong. Yes. So I've got that one done with an appositive. See, assisted by brave and dedicated abolitionists. They slept in barns and churches, and then I'm describing it by adding assisted by brave and dedicated abolitionists. Then I got these crazy ones down here. So let me see what's being reset here. Elkin County, Elkin County. So I have to take Elkin County here and get it somewhere up near here using an appositive. So I'm going to start with one abolitionist in Elkhart County, Indiana. Then I can just say located south of Lake Erie, comma. Then I can go on with my rest of the sentence. Sympathized with the fugitives. Now I've got two sentences. Is there anything that's the same in these two sentences? Think about it. We got it here. So what are we going to do? Dedicated abolitionists. Remember, we're working on participles. Assisted by brave and dedicated abolitionists. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm starting to think, how can I do this? One, oh, I see it now. See, sometimes it takes time. One, referring to the abolitionists. I don't need to replace that. Being in, notice how I took one abolitionist. Oh, wait a minute, I could do, see how crazy it is? One abolitionist. Oh, wait a minute. See how hard it can get? One. And I'm going to change that to my participle. See what I've done here? I had to think it through myself before I could tell you about it. They slept in barns and churches, assisted by brave and dedicated abolitionists, comma, and now I'm describing abolitionists using a participle phrase. One in Elkhart County, Indiana, located south of Lake Erie, sympathizing with the fugitives. Now, if we just took this sentence alone, it isn't a sentence. This sentence alone is a fragment because we don't have a verb in it. Looks like we have verbs, but remember, this is a participle describing Elkhart County. This is a participle describing this person here. And this whole thing is describing a part of the abolitionists. So we have a very complex sentence here that is perfectly acceptable. It's not a run-on. It has a lot of information in it. They slept in barns and churches assisted by brave and dedicated abolitionists, one in Elkhart County, Indiana, located south of Lake Erie, sympathizing with the fugitives. That's perfectly correct. But as an English teacher, if you wrote that to me on a paper, I'd probably say, can you break that up? Because it seems like a lot of information. So I probably would be asking you to go back to 2 sentences. Sometimes you can put too many participles in one place. So in some cases, you may need to have 2 sentences each with a participle. I could go on and do more, but this is getting a little longer than I want it to be. So I'm going to end here. I hope that this helps clarify again a little bit more about participles. Please see what you can do with this when you go back to the discussion board and talk to your classmates. Remember, you need to help your classmates create sentences with participles this week. So if they're not using a participle, you have to show them one that will.